Hello everyone and welcome back to the TCEC Superfinal. It's game 14 and it's quite an interesting game. Now Leela with the white pieces and Stockfish decides at some point in the game that Stockfish will grab a pawn. Now what happens from there? We'll just have to wait and see. So without further ado, let's check it out. Leela with the white pieces opens with c4. Sorry about that. And as usual, the openings are predefined up to a certain point, but I will mention when that is so. Knight to f6 with d4, and now c5. The Benoni is on the board. For those of you who enjoy playing the Benoni with black and against the Benoni with white, are definitely going to enjoy this. d5 with e6. Knight to c3, a trade in the center, and the d6. We have knight to f3, so just the normal Benoni, and the g6 now. And amongst humans, e4 and bishop to f4 are the popular choices here, the most popular choices here. However, here we have knight to d2, the so-called knight tour variation. Going for that e4 square a bit sooner rather than later. e4 is coming, and then this knight will be remaneuvered to c4, from where the knight will be much more useful. Bishop to g7. It is now as of move 7 that we are out of book, so from this point forward, both Leela and Stockfish are making their own moves with e4. And now Stockfish just castles with bishop to e2, knight b to d7, just continuing development. And now there are over 450 games in the database where, for example, castles was played here in human games, but Leela prefers h3 here, and it is as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. So let's see what happens. Knight to e8, backing up, opening up this bishop's diagonal, and also the knight will keep an eye on the d6 pawn once this knight comes to c4 to attack it. We have castles by Leela, and now a6, preparing b5. Of course, Leela prevents this. We have a4, and rook to b8. Again, with some ideas of maybe playing b5 in the future. We have knight to c4 now. A much better square for the knight, keeping an eye on that d6 pawn. The knight from e8 nicely defends it. We have queen to e7, and now f4, grabbing more space in the center, and the bishop to d4 with check. We have king to h2, and now knight d to f6, putting knight to a much better square, still having to figure out what to do with the light square bishop. So the d4 pawn is attacked twice, so bishop to f3, Leela defends it, and now comes the moment we've discussed in the beginning of the game. Here Stockfish decides that Stockfish will now grab a pawn, and it comes with the price of one dark square bishop. So bishop captures on c3, removes the defender of the e4 pawn, b captures on c3, and now knight captures on e4. Now, can Stockfish get away with this? Let's see what happens. Leela goes queen to e1. Rook to e1, also possible, but again will be met with f5, so Leela has different plans. We have queen to e1 with a double attack on the knight, and of course if the knight moves, the queen falls on e7, as it is undefended. So f5 defending the knight, and now knight to b6, just stifling White's development of the queen side. The rook is now pretty silly there. The bishop still not clear where the bishop is going, and well, that's what Leela wants to do, and Stockfish didn't really have any better moves than to grab that pawn. So it's not that Stockfish deliberately grabbed the pawn to get a passive position. It was already a passive position, so why not have a passive position being up a pawn? So knight 8 to f6 by Stockfish, just improving the position of the pieces. We have c4, strengthening d5. Also, the queen can now enter the game on the queen side. Bishop to d7, and now rook to a3. Just improving the position of the rook now with control of the third rank. Also, a nice rook lift with rook to e3 will be possible later. With h5, and now king back to g1. We have rook to f7. And now rook to e3 by Leela, now completely dominating the e-file. We have a5, and this a5 is a weird move by Stockfish, but Stockfish needs to get some counterplay, and if you don't do it, then White will play a5, grab even more space on the queen side, completely solidify that knight on b6. Then the bishop is coming to b2, grabbing hold of this diagonal. At some point you might even bust open with the g4, and the black can either wait until all of those things happen, or try an active plan with a5, and this is what Stockfish does. So Leela grabs the pawn, queen captures on a5, and now queen to d8, saying, okay, your knight isn't going anywhere now, as if it moves, I just grab your queen. So, okay, bishop to b2 by Leela, and now h4. So, okay, Stockfish gave back the pawn, but at least Leela's queen is now a bit paralyzed there on the queen side. Rook f to e1, getting this rook doubled on the e file. We have king to h7, and now comes rook to b3. Now the knight is defended, and now Leela's queen can once again move. So queen to f8, no point in pretending the pin exists, and now comes bishop captures on f6. You have to capture with the knight. If you capture with the rook, then just bishop captures here will win you the pawn. So knight captures on f6, and now comes queen back to d2. We have queen to g7 now by Stockfish, and now a5, continuing to push the pawn. We have king to g8, and now queen to f2, attacking the h4 pawn. g5 defending it, and now Leela finds knight captures on d7, grabbing that piece. We have knight captures on d7, and now bishop to h5, dislodging the rook. We have rook f to f8, and now rook to e6, with threats of rook to g6 just winning a queen. So knight to f6 defending, and now you cannot go for a rook captures here because then you hang the bishop. So queen to e2, Leela defends the bishop, and now queen to h6 with a double attack on the bishop here. We have bishop to f3, and now again not much for you to do. Stockfish tries g4, very active now that the bishop is once again under attack. H captures on g4, f captures, and bishop captures on g4. But now queen captures on f4, again with a double attack on the bishop here. Bishop to h3, and now Stockfish finally gets in queen to c1 with check. And now if you go back, then it's just queen back to f4 check, king back to the back rank, queen back to c1 with check. So here Leela decides to block with the queen, queen e1, we have captured, Stockfish trades queens, and king to g7. And it seems like Stockfish is out of the woods, as the position the position is as it is, but the material is equal on the board. However, Leela's position is much more active, and she does have a bishop against the knight with play on both sides of the board. So rook to b6, another active move, just going after the d6 pawn. So rook f to d8, Stockfish defends it. And now rook e to b1 with a double attack on the b7 pawn. And there's no way to defend it. You cannot go here as the bishop covers d7, so Stockfish again has to go for some activity. Rook to a8 goes after the a5 pawn, but the b7 pawn falls with check. So rook captures on b7 with check, king to g6, and now comes rook to a1, just preparing to push the passed pawn. Stockfish stops it, but now rook to b6, offering a trade. Of course, Stockfish not interested in a trade as he's now down a pawn, so rook to a7 and now a6. Leela continues to push the passed pawn, as that's what you do with passed pawns. King to g5, and now comes rook to f1. And now it's interesting to see how Leela will convert this, or maybe she won't. We have knight to h5, and now comes rook to f5 with check. The knight was going to g3. We have king to g6, and now an interesting idea, rook to e5. Of course, you cannot capture as the pawn is pinned, but preparing rook check to pick up the d6 pawn finally. So knight to f4, guarding the checking square here, but now king back to h2. We have king to h6, and now again rook to f5, kicking the knight further back. Knight to h5, and now bishop to g4, forcing the knight to g3. We have knight to g3, and now finally again rook to e5 with the threat of rook checks on e6. So king to g6, and now bishop to d1, getting the bishop out of the way so rook checks doesn't come with king g5, and then the king comes with an attack on the bishop. So rook back to f7, and now bishop to c2 with check. King f6 and rook to e6 check. Finally, the d6 pawn is falling. So king g5, and now finally rook b captures on d6. We have rook captures, and now rook to a7. Again blocking the pawn, but now it's only a matter of getting this rook away from there. And how Leela will do this is probably by shifting the king all the way up to the pawn, and then kicking the rook away. So bishop d3 first. You want your c4 pawn defended, as you'll see later why. We have king f4 and now rook to e6, cutting off the king, so the king is unable to reach the e file. King back to g4 and now king g1. Finally, the king starts his march. King g5, we have king f2, knight to h5, king to f3. We have knight to f6, now king e3. We have knight to g4 with check, now king to d2. We have king to f4, but again, bishop to e2. Just checking if maybe black is interested in giving up the knight here. So knight to e5, of course not allowing this, and king to c3 now. We have rook to g7, trying to grab hold of the pawn here. Bishop to f1 now, simply guarding it. Rook back to a7, and now comes king to b3. So little by little, the white king is making progress. We have knight g4, king to a4. We have rook to a8, and now king to b5. We have knight to e5. Now, you can see that it's very useful that the bishop guards the c4 pawn. King captures on c5. So now it's 4 pawns to 1, of course completely winning. Rook to c8 with check, king to d4, again very useful that the bishop guards the c4 pawn now that it's attacked twice. And now knight to d7. We have rook to e7 attacking the knight, and now knight to c5 blocking the pawns, but now a7. So we have knight to b3 with check, king to c3, and knight back to c5. We have king to b4 by Leela, and knight to e4 now. But here Leela finds a very tactical idea, g3 with check, saying that, okay, if the king captures, then I win your knight. If you capture with the knight, then bishop h3 attacks the rook, and after the rook moves, now that the knight no longer guards these two squares, I can just start pushing this pawn. For example, d7, rook to e8, it's game over. And of course, if h captures, again, it's just bishop to g2 now with a double attack on the knight, and after the knight moves, again, c5, you start pushing, and that's pretty much it. Knight f5, let's say check, you push the king back, and now again, you just start pushing your pawns, and that's an easy win. So king to f3 by Stockfish instead, but now g captures on h4, grabbing yet another pawn and creating yet another pass pawn. So rook to a8, but now even bishop to g2 check by Leela. Stockfish captures, we have captures, and now rook captures on a7. We have d6, rook to b7 check, king to c5, we have rook to f7, and now rook to e7, just offering a trade of rooks. Rook to f5 check, king to b6, and I believe it was in this position that Stockfish resigned the game, or both of them agreed that the evaluation of the position is just too ridiculous to continue. But as I'm not completely sure if the game ended here, I will just check once more. Yep, the game ended here. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's game 14 of the match, and with this match, with this game, game 14, Leela took the lead in the match, but you know, it's still very early. It's only 14 games. Well, actually, more games have been played by now, but I'm only covering game 14 now, so I'm not going to spoil any future results. But if any of you want to check out the match live, I will put a link to it in the description below. It will be the first thing you will see, and you can follow all the games live. They're played all the time. They're classical games, so it's not those 1-minute engine games. So they're really playing classical chess here, and you can follow it on the link below. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. You guys did say that you would enjoy more games from this match, so here they are. I would like to thank Daniel Goldman, Niklas Bartwitz, Solid Systems EDV GmbH, Cloud Strife, and drhowell.net for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphy saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.